During my college years, I juggled multiple jobs to make ends meet, one of which was delivering for Uber Eats. It was a gig I took on primarily during weekends to supplement my income. Armed with my trusty car, I navigated the busy streets of our city, ferrying orders from various restaurants to hungry customers. One particular night stands out in my memory, a night like any other, albeit a bit later than usual. I received a delivery request from a nearby local restaurant, and without hesitation, I set off to pick up the order. The restaurant was bustling with activity, but I managed to collect the food and hit the road in no time. As I drove to the customer's address, I couldn't shake off a sense of unease. The neighborhood was eerily quiet, with dimly lit streets and few signs of life. Nevertheless, I located the house and parked on the curb in front of it. Stepping out of my car, I was greeted by the stillness of the night, broken only by the distant hum of passing cars. With the food in hand, I made my way to the front door and rang the bell. As I waited, I noticed a figure approaching in the distance. The man, clad in dark clothing, seemed to be heading in my direction. Ignoring the slight twinge of unease, I focused on the task at hand. The door swung open, revealing the customer who eagerly accepted the delivery. With a quick exchange, I turned to leave, eager to get back to my car and complete my next delivery. However, my plans were abruptly interrupted by the sound of footsteps behind me. Glancing over my shoulder, I saw the same man from earlier approaching me, his features illuminated by the glow of the streetlights. His sudden appearance sent a chill down my spine, and I instinctively tensed, unsure of his intentions. He stopped by my car window and knocked, his demeanor urgent. Reluctantly, I rolled down the window, wary of his proximity. His request for a ride caught me off guard, and I politely declined, citing my current job obligations. Before I could react, he lashed out, his fist connecting with my jaw in a sudden, unexpected blow. Stunned, I recoiled from the impact, my senses reeling from the shock. In a swift motion, he reached through the window and snatched my car keys, leaving me momentarily disoriented. With adrenaline coursing through my veins, I stumbled out of the car, my mind racing with fear and confusion. The man wasted no time in seizing the opportunity, slipping into the driver's seat and speeding off into the night, leaving me stranded and shaken. Gathering my wits, I reached for my phone and dialed the police, relaying the details of the incident as best as I could. They assured me that help was on the way, but the minutes stretched into agonizing eternity as I waited for their arrival. Thankfully, the authorities located my car several days later, abandoned in a distant parking lot. Though relieved to have it back, the ordeal left me wary and distrustful of strangers. It was a sobering reminder of the dangers that lurked in the shadows, even in familiar surroundings. In the aftermath of the incident, I underwent physical therapy to heal from the blow to my jaw, but the emotional scars lingered long after the bruises faded. Yet, despite the trauma, I refused to let fear dictate my life, resolving to reclaim my sense of security and move forward with renewed vigilance. About a year ago, I found myself strapped for cash, so I decided to sign up as a delivery driver for DoorDash. Living near a bustling city meant there were plenty of restaurants to deliver from, and I quickly got into the rhythm of the gig. Unlike most drivers who relied on cars, I preferred delivering on foot, enjoying the exercise and the freedom to navigate through crowded streets with ease. One night, as I was making my rounds, I received an order for some smoothies from a trendy health drink place. It was a quiet evening, and the streets were relatively empty as I made my way to pick up the order. The evening breeze whispered through the city, and the distant sounds of traffic provided a soothing backdrop to my delivery route. As I walked down the sidewalk, balancing the drink holder carefully, I suddenly heard a commotion to my left. Before I could react, a cyclist collided with me, sending me crashing to the ground. It happened so fast, I barely had time to register what had happened. It turned out a reckless driver had cut off another car, forcing the cyclist onto the sidewalk and into my path. Shaken but unhurt, I watched helplessly as the smoothies I was delivering spilled onto the pavement. After ensuring everyone involved was okay, I trudged back to the health drink place to explain the situation. Thankfully, they were understanding and agreed to remake the order, although it would take some time. With the delay weighing on my mind, I eventually resumed my journey to the customer's address. However, my troubles were far from over. Upon arrival, I was met with hostility from an impatient customer who accused me of being lazy and making excuses for my tardiness. Despite my attempts to explain the situation, the man remained belligerent, and I left the scene feeling frustrated and dejected. Determined to salvage the night, I decided to make one more delivery before calling it quits. However, as I left the customer's building, I noticed the same angry man following me. His presence sent a shiver down my spine, but I brushed it off, assuming it was just a coincidence. As I made my way to the next delivery, the man continued to trail behind me, his presence growing more unsettling with each passing moment. When I reached the customer's address, I hesitated, unsure of how to proceed. Should I confront him or ignore him and carry on with my delivery? In the end, I chose to confront him, confronting him head-on. However, as I turned to face him, he quickly disappeared into a nearby convenience store, leaving me feeling both relieved and perplexed. With a sigh of relief, I continued on with my delivery, hoping to put the strange encounter behind me. As I made my way back home, the night took an even more sinister turn. I soon realized that the man was still following me, his presence looming ever closer with each step I took. Panic began to set in as I quickened my pace, the sound of his footsteps echoing ominously behind me. When I finally reached my apartment building, I hurried inside, praying that he wouldn't follow me any further. But to my horror, I soon discovered that he had followed me all the way to my doorstep, his intentions unknown and his presence deeply unsettling. I quickly locked the door behind me, my heart pounding in my chest as I watched him linger outside. It was a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurked in the shadows, and I couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if I hadn't made it home safely that night. Back when I was a college student, I found myself in need of a part-time job to make ends meet. Being a pizza enthusiast, I thought, why not become a delivery driver? So I applied to Domino's and got hired without much hassle. For the next 6 months, my trusty old Honda became my faithful companion as I navigated the bustling streets of our city, delivering cheesy goodness to hungry customers. Nights were usually the busiest, and I didn't mind the late shifts since they paid well and allowed me to focus on my studies during the day. One particular Friday night stands out vividly in my memory. It was well past midnight, and the city had quieted down, except for the occasional car speeding by. I received a delivery order around 1 a.m., just when I thought the night was winding down. The address led me to a neighborhood I wasn't too familiar with. As I drove through the dimly lit streets, I couldn't shake off a feeling of unease. The houses seemed to huddle together, casting long shadows under the sparse streetlights. Eventually, I found the address, a rundown building that looked like it had seen better days. It was one of those old apartment complexes with creaky stairs and flickering lights. I parked my car and made my way to the entrance, pizza bag in hand. The instructions led me upstairs to Unit 209. The staircase groaned under my weight as I climbed, and a sense of foreboding settled over me with each step. When I reached the top, I hesitated before knocking on the door. Something didn't feel right. My knock echoed through the silence, but there was no response. I knocked again, growing increasingly anxious. Just then, I heard the door downstairs creak open, and two figures emerged from the darkness. My heart skipped a beat as I saw them. Two men dressed entirely in black, their faces concealed by ski masks. Panic surged through me as they started ascending the stairs, their footsteps echoing ominously in the empty hallway. Instinct took over, and I desperately tried the door to Unit 209, only to find it locked. With no other options in sight, I made a split-second decision and hurled the pizza towards the approaching figures. As the pizza box sailed through the air, I scrambled over the railing, praying that my impromptu escape plan would work. I landed with a painful thud on the ground below, the impact knocking the wind out of me. Ignoring the shooting pain in my legs, I scrambled to my feet and bolted towards the exit. Behind me, I heard the men's hurried footsteps as they gave chase. Adrenaline fueled my movements as I sprinted out of the building and dashed towards my car. Fumbling with the keys, I jumped into the driver's seat and peeled out of there, leaving the menacing figures behind. Back at Domino's, I recounted the harrowing ordeal to my boss, who urged me to call the police immediately. Shaken but unharmed, I dialed 911 and reported what had happened. The police arrived promptly and launched an investigation, but the perpetrators were never caught. As it turned out, Unit 209 was vacant, and the whole delivery had been a setup. Someone had lured me into a dangerous trap, but their motives remained a mystery. Despite the close call, I continued working at Domino's for another month before deciding to hang up my delivery hat for good. But the memory of that fateful night still sends shivers down my spine, a reminder of the dangers that lurk in the darkness.